One of the reasons I can't wait for Trevor Lawrence to have a good year is to shut the mouth of critics and haters. I'll tell you why that's important here in just a second.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is, in fact, your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast. Just make sure wherever you watch or listen, you tap into that location so you do not miss an episode. Shout out to the everydayers who join us every single day, which is why we call them everydayers. If you're new here, we don't discriminate, man. Come on in and hang out. You can be an everydayer. All you got to do is just come back, right? That's it. I'm going to give you a reason to, too. I'm going to tell you today what I'm talking about. And I'm doing this because I have been a credentialed member of the media for 2 decades, and I have my finger on the pulse of this team. And that's why I think I can kind of set the temperature for you like a thermostat and tell you exactly where it's hot and cold. And I'm going to do that here. We're going to end up talking about going to make them wait. That means the starters won't play in the last preseason game against the Dolphins Saturday. So you got to wait to see what they're going to be able to do when the year starts. Liam Cohen has his doubters. Those doubters exist because of the person I'm going to talk to in segment 1. And that is Trevor Lawrence. Can Trevor Lawrence quiet the critics? I did not put a question mark on it. I said he can quiet the critics, and I think he will. So Liam Cohen, the Liam Cohen aspect of this, he's catching shrapnel here from some people, Bill Simmons and a whole bunch more folks. He's going to catch shrapnel. They're going to question his acumen as a coach, even though they just saw Dave Canales do the same thing and end up going up to Carolina and getting the best out of Bryce Young. Folks hate on Trevor, and this is why we're talking today. It might not be the same people. It might not be. But there are a group of people that blow everything out of proportion from a praise standpoint before things even happen, calling the dude the prince that was promised and sunshine and all of these things and give him the ball and get out of the way. And he's a generational quarterback. He's going to change everything. He's great, 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 great. And then when things don't go according to plan, like he didn't come into the league and do what Jaden Daniels did. He didn't come in the league and even do what C.J. Stroud did his first year, although Stroud has taken a little bit of a step back. But they then jump on you and go total opposite the other way. Oh, he's awful. He's terrible. Without using a whole bunch of nuance and context. That's what you're here for today. I ain't normally the dude that you refer to when you think about nuance, but I am a big context guy, right? Nuance may not be my strong suit. My strong suit may just be being raw and telling people how it is. So I'm going to be raw today and tell you, I wish they would shut their damn mouth. All of these bloviating people that are telling you about what Trevor Lawrence has or hasn't done, I can honestly tell you they probably have not watched a full Jaguars game that was not on national TV. I know for a fact they weren't watching when the Jaguars had things rolling prior to him getting hurt on a Monday night game against the Cincinnati Bengals. I know for a fact they weren't watching when Trevor Lawrence had a team that was 2-7 or 2-6, and they finished 9-8, or they were 2-7, finished 9-8, and made a comeback from a game they were down 27-0, albeit because he threw 4 interceptions in the first half. And then he rallied the team past one of their darlings in Justin Herbert. Now, I don't want to slam Justin Herbert or throw shrapnel at him because I think he's going to be okay too. But it's just that I have a hard time with people that beat up on folks when they're low-hanging fruit, but praise them to death before they ever really do anything. And most of the time, I think this is the reason. Because with all of that praise and all of those things that you said, now if it doesn't go according to the way you thought it was going to go or the way that you used all of the hyperbole to get your little clicks and your ratings up, then you have to come back and go the other way to try to save face. Well, see, if you never put that face on in the first place, there won't be nothing to save. All right. So that's why I honestly tell people I ain't telling you just to listen to Locked On Jaguars, but I do think that this is a pretty good place for you to come for your Jaguars coverage. I say go local, period. Go local. Because 9 times out of 10, somebody covering the team that's local has gone through all of the stuff that you've gone through. People say you ain't kicked the same dirt. We ain't stomped on the same concrete. No, Jaguar media from local media and fans, no, we have gone through this together. And by this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The up and down, mostly down, the ebb and flow nature of the Jacksonville Jaguars that has been disappointing. In the pantheon of things that have disappointed you as a Jaguar fan over the last 25 years, Trevor Lawrence don't even rank in the top 20. And y'all know it, and we know it. So sometimes can that blind you also because you accept mediocrity because, woo, boy, mediocrity is something that we ain't never seen. We just want to get our head above water. Of course it can. But I think we are, and for the use of this word for the third time, I think we are all more nuanced than that to fall for that BS. I honestly believe what is happening with Jaguar fans is we're just trying to walk before we crawl. And every time we start to walk and get upright, we fall back off the bike, right? We've seen it. They've never made the playoffs and then made the playoffs the next year. They've never shown you that they were in 2017. We're on our way. Yeah, we got there, man. We got to the airport and the plane left. And then we had to go right back where we came from. Even the first year under Doug Peterson, after the awful years before that under Urban Meyer and Doug Marrone, the Jaguars looked like they were on their way, and then all of a sudden, boom. The record was the same the following year. They had 2 straight years of 9-8, but you knew they weren't in the same position. You were trending up after the first year. You were trending down after the second year, right? And then, of course, last year was last year, and then things had to change, and everybody made a change. But I want folks to know something. If you really look at this in a vacuum, right, really ask yourself, what has Trevor Lawrence had? The best thing I thought he had was Doug Peterson. And I think Simmons said something like Doug knows quarterbacks. Who? Carson Wentz? Nick Foles? And I'm not discounting the fact that, yeah, he won a championship and scored over 40 points against Bill Belichick's defense, and they won a Super Bowl. That's why I thought he could come in here and do the same thing. But when you say Doug Peterson knows quarterbacks, I was naive to just assume that if he could win with Nick Foles, he can damn sure win with Trevor Lawrence. But I want you to really show me when you say he knows quarterbacks, who are you talking about? You can't. What quarterback you talking about he know? What did he do? Who did he help? What did he do when Andy Reid wasn't there? So people say stuff just to say stuff, and then it makes absolutely no sense because when you look at it for what it is, it's not true. What has Urban Meyer done outside of college football? Don't worry, I'll wait. What? You can't answer it. You can't answer it. Press Taylor's been fired from Doug Peterson got fired because of Press Taylor, probably at 2 different places. Come on, Bill Simmons. I know you watched Doug Peterson run up and beat the dog crap. Well, not really. It was a close game. The Patriots, your beloved Boston team. But come on, man, don't be puffing people up more. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You puff a guy up, and then when he doesn't do what you think he should do, now you beat him up because your opinion was wrong or how you thought it was going to go was wrong. There's too much personal stuff in here. I want Trevor Lawrence to play off this year for one reason. You know what that reason is? That reason is, one, for the Jaguar fans mainly, but the other part of it, a byproduct of that or a secondary reason for that, would be to tell all of those critics they can stick it where the sun don't shine because y'all know this dude hasn't had the infrastructure, the offensive line, and the weapons that will allow him to have been as good as you thought he was going to be or as good as you're criticizing him for not being. Stop the foolishness. And now they're doing it with Liam Cohen. But the reason why they don't think Liam Cohen's going to be good is because they don't want him to be good because that means Trevor Lawrence is going to be good. And I'm going to talk about the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars and the shrapnel that he's taking in all of this in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. Best time of year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with fantasy football experiences like never before. This year, me and my homies with the Showtime and Playmakers League, we're playing Yahoo Fantasy for the 20th year. You need to get in and on it too if you're playing for your 30th, 50th, or millionth league, right? I always use Yahoo because they're the absolute best. You never have computer errors. I absolutely love Yahoo Fantasy. To celebrate 20 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days through August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give your new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play head-to-head or private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Rolling along here on Locked On Jaguars. It's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, talking about Trevor Lawrence and the people that get on my natural nerve in not explaining context when they think of how good or how good he isn't, how good he is or how good he isn't. This is not about me wanting everybody to believe Trevor Lawrence is a good football player or living up to the standard of a number one pick. It's not for me. It's not me sitting here saying that he doesn't have some things that he needs to do mechanically, things that I probably thought he already knew how to do. But it is me saying we got to put it all in context when we talk about this and not just say a guy stinks, especially when there were too many people just going over the top, blowing up. See, these people aren't finished products, right? Liam Cohen, the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, talked about Trevor's footwork and where his eyes go. Talked about some mechanical things, some things, him seeing things pre-snap, getting answers pre-snap, and all of those things. So in year 5, Trevor Lawrence is still working out stuff. If this coach is working out things, and I know different coaches have different ways of doing things, but if this coach is working out things, then that means those things had never really been worked out before, or they are not up to his personal satisfaction for the way he wants to operate his machine, which would go against people sitting there thinking that Doug Peterson was the quarterback whisperer. If you're the quarterback whisperer and Mike McCoy was going, in fact, I'm going to tell you a secret. I was standing there with a dude that has experience training quarterbacks at a very, very high level, and he was watching McCoy teach stuff, and he said, it's so archaic. This stuff that he's teaching was stuff that they taught 10 years ago, man. Nobody teaches that stuff anymore. But I never came on here and reported that because that's just a matter of opinion. I can tell you now because, well, it happened. It was the truth. And this person has never lied to me. In fact, a lot of things that they've told me were correct and have been correct. It just angers me when there's zero consideration for bad coaching. There's zero consideration for a front office and a staff that refused to put competition on the offensive line. There's just zero consideration for having average at best players catching balls. There's just zero consideration for all of that stuff. And y'all want to sit here and talk about how good or bad a player is. It just doesn't make sense to me. It absolutely does not. This is why guys like Baker Mayfield and last year Sam Darnold, when they get to other coaches that absolutely know what to do with them, they end up getting it done. And I'm going to give Sean McVay some credit for Baker Mayfield because I know for a fact that him spending time out there with them is something that helped him tremendously before he got to Tampa. Bad organizations. I just mentioned 2 quarterbacks, and both of those guys ran through Carolina. And Carolina's now on Bryce Young, and they're trying to get it right with him, and they almost ruined him before they got Dave Canales. These dudes didn't just turn up. Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield didn't just all of a sudden figure it out and turn up and realize how to play. The folks that were responsible for onboarding them, he was a little immature in Cleveland, but the folks in Carolina that were responsible for onboarding them and making them good quarterbacks failed. These guys always have stuff that they need to learn. They have all have things that they need to improve on. I was talking to my man Matt Williamson on Locked On NFL on my show, The Barbershop, and we were discussing the fact that media and fans give up on players way before coaching and personnel people give up on players. That's just not something that they do because they understand that it's a process. There's a process to this. Guys get better after a while. And we have to really, really see, and you have to actually give them a better canvas for them to play on. And now people taking shots at Liam Cohen. Do we really know he's good? How do we know he's good? What has he done? What did Dave Canales do? What did anybody do? What did anybody do before they had the opportunity to show what they can do? What do you want Liam Cohen to do? You want him to stay in Tampa and be down there for another 2 years and do exactly what he's done last year? I mean, what is it that you want him to do to prove to you or to show you that he deserves to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars? I don't get it. At the very least, he knows how to coach quarterbacks and offense. And now he has Coach Greg Udinski from Minnesota, who everybody raves about. What did Kevin O'Connell do before he got the Minnesota job? It's just that, the old people that I grew up around in my neighborhood, they call this putting roots on people. You got to understand what that is. That means you're just going to try to speak something. You're going to speak a whole bunch of witchcraft into existence just because you want to sound smart and want to sound right. I'm about sick of it. Y'all can tell I'm tired of this, man. It's Friday. I'm sick of hearing these dudes sit here and say things like their opinion or fact when really is what it is a want and a desire. You want the Jaguars to be bad. You want Trevor Lawrence to be bad. Because it makes you look and sound smart. I got room for you. I got news for you. I think you're going to sound dumb after this year. There's going to be a lot of crow in a lot of people's faces. Not because I'm sitting there just rooting for Trevor with some blind love because I cover the Jaguars, but because I got common sense and I can tell you what you probably don't know because you're not local. And what that is put anybody behind that offensive line and watch how they run for their life. How did Patrick Mahomes look in those Super Bowls? How did he even look last year when that offensive line was in shambles? You put anybody, and that line was still aligned with three dudes that have all-pro resume on the interior. The Jaguars ain't had one dude like that since Trevor Lawrence has been here. And y'all want to sit behind these microphones and sit here and act like you know what's going on just because that's what you want to happen. It ain't going to fly this way. It doesn't go like that on Locked On Jaguars. It don't work that way with the fans. It don't work with that. See, sometimes I think when I come on here, y'all forget that I am from Jacksonville, Florida, born on the north side and raised on the west side with a little touch of Southeast D.C. Y'all just can't come on here and just say anything about a team and expect people not to push back, especially when you do not know what you're talking about. Leave my coach alone. Let him do his job. You're going to have to wait, though, if you want to see the starters, because Liam Cohen said we ain't playing no starters for this third preseason game against Miami. I'll talk about that strategy, which I agree with, but then talk about some guys that probably will play that really, really, really need to show something to be on this roster. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Betterhelp. These days, it feels like there's advice for everything. Cold plunges, gratitude journals, screen detoxes. But how do you know when things actually work for you? With so much information online about mental health and wellness, it can be overwhelming to figure out what's true and what will actually help. That's where talking to a licensed therapist through Betterhelp can make all the differences. You get real personalized guidance instead of just guessing based on something you saw on social media. Now, I know for a fact I suffer from depression. I've had family members suffer from depression, and everybody seems to have an answer when they're not a professional. You don't have to worry about that because with over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform serving more than 5 million people. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/locked-on. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/locked-on. All right, moving and grooving on third segment here on Locked On Jaguars. Hey, y'all, make sure y'all go to lockedonpodcast.com and check out our newsletter. The newsletter is the real deal. Give you a lot of pertinent information about what's going on around the league. They work really hard on that. You guys need to make sure you guys check that out. So check the newsletter out at lockedonpodcast.com. There are some guys that have to really, really show up. And one of them has even made a national list on NFL.com. They have to show up, I believe, to show that they deserve or have earned the right to be a part of the 2025 Jaguars. The biggest name for me is Chad Muma. I think Chad Muma is in a little bit of heat, a little bit of trouble. I don't know if there's a much of a trade market for him, but I just don't think that he set himself apart. And that shocked me, man, because I saw him at the Senior Bowl a few years back. And I saw his game tape from Wyoming, and I was just like, man, he is a flow-to-the-ball machine. But you just haven't seen that. You haven't seen much change in the way that he moves. He's 6'3", 239. That's exactly what he was. He doesn't have a whole bunch of muscular definition to him. He doesn't seem like athletically he's taken he hasn't gotten more physical. There's nothing that he's really done that separates him from the same Chad Muma we've seen over the last few years. And that's significant because in that particular draft, the Jaguars signed Foy Oluokun in free agency, drafted Devin Lloyd. They already had Trayvon Walker. They were running basically a 3-4. They had Trayvon Walker and they had Josh Allen. So then they drafted Chad Muma in the third round of the draft. And he just hasn't panned out. So there were some questions like, why would you take another linebacker? At the time, they took him because, well, they were switching to a defense. They had no linebackers on the roster that actually fit what they were doing. No depth whatsoever. So they needed to get more players, and I understand that. But I hate using a third-round pick on a depth guy in the same draft where you signed and drafted the two dudes that's going to be basically playing in front of him. Foy had a 3-year deal, and the other kid, Devin Lloyd, was a first-round pick. So you basically drafted a third-round pick, and if he would have started for you, that means one of those other guys would have had to be a bust. So it wasn't more or less about him as much as it was about why that position. And I know y'all don't want me to sit here and go back through that draft and point out the players that were available at other positions, because at that time, Jacksonville needed everything. And in the third round, if you need everything, I'm still trying to find a starter, man. I'm trying to find another offensive lineman right there. So I don't want to compound it by making it worse, but you can go to drafthistory.com and look at the people that were chosen behind them and say, ooh, we probably could have used that. There's a whole bunch of them on there, right? But he's been really, really you just don't notice him. You notice Jack Kaiser. You notice Yasir Abdullah. You notice Ventrell Miller. You just don't notice Chad Muma very much unless there's something on the tape that I just don't recognize because I'm not in those rooms. Some other players, Antonio Johnson, but it's not because I think he's in danger of getting cut. Antonio Johnson, I believe, has shown a lot. I think if he shows more, it's more confirmation that he's going to be on the club, as opposed to he would really have to stink. If he stinks it up, then that could really push it the other way. But if he just plays even, I think he's on the team. If he really, really shines, especially with the Dolphins are going to play their starters on offense, then you could say, oh yeah, just like I thought, he stays. BJ Green is another dude that I believe, man, he's looked good on tape and the stats bear out. He's 6'1", 270, the rookie pass rusher out of Colorado. I don't know if you'll be able to hide him on the practice squad with the way that he's flashed in the games and in practices. And at 6'1", 270, you're like, well, what position does he play? Yeah, but see, the way that the Jaguars are going to play this, there's room for him in Anthony Campanelli's system because he's just a good football player, just like Yasir Abdullah, even though Abdullah is very good off the ball as a Sam linebacker. And when they go to a true Sam formation, Abdullah's the starter. It's not Muma. And that's part of the reason why I'm bringing this up. Also, BJ Green has shown some pass rush ability. Then it probably comes down to whether or not he can play special teams. Jabbar Muhammad is another dude. I think at the very least he's on the practice squad, right? But he's played a lot of ball. He's a big-time recruit out of Texas in high school. He's played a lot of ball, man. And Jabbar Muhammad has been in Washington, been in Oregon. The only thing you say about Jabbar Muhammad is he's not very big and his arms are kind of short, his length. And while that does matter, especially when you're trying to pick between one or two guys, you can't deny that the dude doesn't have a navigation system and doesn't understand the position. You can't deny that he shows up. You can't deny that he has a physical presence, because even though they list Jabbar, they list him at 5'10", 185, he's kind of yoked up. You know, that's what happens when you got those short arms. You look kind of yoked up with it. I think he has a pretty good shot. Trenton Irwin and Austin Trammell, all they got to do is go out and just play like they played in the preseason. I think that's receiver number 5 and number 6, if they're going to keep 6. I'm rooting for Quentin Morris because I think of all the tight ends on the roster, he's the one that has that little H-back in him. Like, he can block, he can catch, he's a complete player. He's played a lot in the league. He's in his 4th year. I think that experience matters. I don't know how many tight ends they're going to keep. Liam Cohen has already said it's going to be hard for them to dress up 4 running backs. And they got 5 in camp. So that means that 3 of those backs who are rookies, one of them might be traded. I don't know, but with teams needing running backs. But the other, I think they're going to have 3 active. They have one or two on the practice squad. Who's it going to be? What are they going to do? We'll have to see the moves that they make. But mainly, those are the main spots. I think the offensive line spots are sewn up, although I do want to see an extended version of Jonah Monheim to see how he looks and how he plays. Guys like Dennis Daly, some of the backups that are going to play a little bit. I want to see what they look like. But for the most part, those are the positions and those are the guys. It's only about 4 or 5 dudes that I'm sitting there thinking are hanging on for dear life, or you just need to see a little bit more from to be comfortable. So that Saturday at 7, I'll do a postcast right after the game this Saturday, after the Jaguars game, to give you my thoughts on it. And then it's all about the anticipation and waiting to see who gets cut or not. If you're into fantasy football, which you should be, because you need to be doing it on Yahoo Fantasy, the drafts, I know mine, they're coming this weekend. Me and my boys going to get it in. Before you do that, make sure you check out Locked On Fantasy Football, the podcast hosted by Vinny Iyer and Michelle Majuk. Listen, they will give you an idea of who's going to be where, who has value, so that you can win your league this year and be a champion like I have been in the past. Make sure you find Locked On Fantasy Football on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Y'all take care. Have a nice weekend. It is beautiful outside here in North Florida. It's about 91 degrees. There ain't a cloud in the sky. And I am grateful that you have decided to spend 28 minutes with me here today. We do not take that for granted. Thank you. Make sure you join us again for a postcast after Saturday's game between the Jaguars and the Dolphins. We'll see you.